within 30 seconds.
Yeah. Welcome in to this special edition of Libservative featuring State of the Union address from one Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. His inaugural State of the Union address. And Corey, all I can think of is the happiness for us to get ready for lots of pissing and moaning and bitching and complaining after this whole thing is over with. Because I was actually thinking about this earlier. I'm like, why do Fox News or CNN or MSNBC even have to cover this? Like, they can just put together their post-game coverage right now because we already know what it's going to be, don't we? Like, CNN's going to say Biden portrayed himself as a very strong. He portrayed himself as strong. He was very tough on China. He was very tough on Putin. He addressed the economy. I thought it was it was a success. Thank you, Dana Bash. And then we move over to Fox News is going to say it was an unmitigated
disaster.
It was an absolute disaster. It was the worst. It was the worst speech in the history of any presidency. He didn't address the economy. He didn't explain how he was going to go against Putin or do anything about China. It was just a disaster. And then MSNBC is just going to be on Mars. But they don't need to even. They could do their post-game coverage right now, which is why we're here. He's Corey Walsh.
And he is Dan Griffin.
This is going to be a fun one, Corey. We've got some bets set up for the folks at home. Some over.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
What are you looking forward to from this inaugural speech, State of the Union address from Joseph Robinette Biden Jr.?
What am I looking forward to? Honestly,
the answer is the whiskey sitting next to you is what
you're
the
whiskey that's sitting next to me. Yeah. No, it's I think my standards for this guy's speeches are so low that is. I mean, I guess if the teleprompter doesn't go out, he might actually give a good one. But if he goes off script, I think of those little quips that we're gonna see will become new memes. So I'm looking forward to the memes, I guess.
And the gifs.
And the gifs.
And the sound bites that we're going to have be able to pull for this very show.
No, I mean, I hope he has practical answers of how, like, now that we're waking up to a very different world compared to what it was just 2 weeks ago. I hope that he has, like, pragmatic answers to the uncertainties that we're going to be facing when it comes to our oil supplies, our supply chains, all the different things that this destabilized Europe is going to bring about.
With that, so the biggest thing that you want to hear about, you actually want to hear about foreign policy stuff, eh?
Not necessarily, because I get, well, in a sense that foreign policy is domestic policy. In this case, I want to see if he's got a plan to ease the cushion of supply, like the oil crisis that we're going to be facing and stuff like that with a war in Europe.
We already are. You already see the memes all over the place. Thanks a lot, Uncle Joe. My gas prices are really high, to which you and I always roll up.
Scoff at, because we know it's not necessarily true that it's just on him, but he has the tools to alleviate it. And so I'm curious what they have planned.
He certainly has the tools to do something about this before, gas prices reach $5. I mean, around here, Corey and I are from the Detroit area. We're right around 350, 360 as of March 1st today, which is still, remarkably high. But I think for me, what would make this particular speech a success would be if he survives. That's number one. He did not look well.
He makes it to the end.
He did not look well. Just I have it on here in the studio. He did not look well walking to the motorcade. He's gotten to this point where he looks like that old man that can't quite make his legs totally straight. So he's got to make up for it with a little bit of extra posture in his back. Anyway, it doesn't matter. For me, he's got to take a hard line on Putin, like without pushing the envelope, right? Because this is a dangerous situation. I'm not one of these fear-mongering people that, I've heard, threats of nuclear war scares and, all sorts of craziness that's not really beyond the realm of possibility, I suppose, because Putin's already shown that he's crazy. So he's going to have to navigate that. He's going to have to navigate that well. I think that's going to be difficult for him. I think it would be difficult for any president to do in this situation. But if he can do that, even with a modicum of success, that's something that I would be happy to see. And he's got to address inflation and even the price of gasoline, as you said. Even though price of gasoline isn't just because of who the president is, but as you said, he does have some ways to remedy that, or at least make things a little bit better, at least lighten the load a little bit. What would make this speech a failure for you, Corey?
So it'd make a failure for me probably if it goes to an insane partisanship turn like we've seen from previous presidents, to where all of a sudden like they're just saying the hot buttons just to get to their base, and not like in America right now that needs a united front with all of these different things that are happening, instead of just blaming half the country for things and stuff like that. Like if you remember good old Trump's State of the Union's addresses, they were driven very partisanship to the point where half the House, or half the people there to watch would be standing up and the other half wouldn't be, and then vice versa. And and it's seeing that in especially like in a time like this probably isn't the greatest thing.
What would make it a failure for me would be if he doesn't survive. Okay, funny joke. That wasn't good the first time. It was really bad the second time. The biggest thing to me is like if he makes this speech about identity politics and culture war nonsense, that is going to completely turn me off. I think he has a chance to make this speech a relative success. Cookies are done, Corey.
Cookies are done.
I think he has a chance to make this a success. I don't really have high hopes though, because I actually feel like my threshold for what makes this speech a success is significantly lower than it has been with presidents in the past. So don't make it about the culture war stuff. And I feel like if he addresses the two things that I mentioned and what would make this a success, I'm gonna feel good in our little post game about this. Did you have anything else you wanted to mention? The president's scheduled to speak here in about 8 minutes, but we got to get to our over-under lines, the fun part of this. So do you have anything else you want to add before we get to that?
No. The man himself is going to speak soon, and we'll see what he has to say. And then we'll be able to have more and gather our thoughts on all of it.
Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. Let's get to these bets, Corey Walsh. Here we go. We are going to start with the lip-servitive version of Vegas odds for tonight's State of the Union address from Joe Biden. How many times will President Biden mention or blame the previous administration? Corey, line set at 2.5 times.
I'm going to go over.
You're going to go over. He's going to blame the previous administration. I am with you, Corey Walsh. I am also going to go over 2.5 on that line. We move to the next discussion. How many mentions of Vice President Kamala Harris will there be in tonight's speech? I have the line set at 1.5 times.
Oh, just because it's so low, I'm going to go over.
You're going to go over. Corey, I am going to go against you on this one. I'm going to take the under on this one. And the reason for that is because Kamala Harris is the only person in the world whose approval ratings are lower than Joe Biden's. So I think he's going to try and kind of stay away from the discussion about the vice president. I'm going under 1.5. How many times will President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. utter the phrase existential threat? Corey, I have the line set at 2.5 times.
I want to say go like as someone who doesn't like to use the same words when writing like monologues and stuff. I'd like to say under, but this guy is probably going to beat the shit out of that word. So I'm going to say over.
I'm going to have faith in the president here, Corey, a little bit. I'm actually going to take the under here. And the only reason is because I think he may address climate change, in which case he will say it then. And he will definitely use it with reference to Russia and Vladimir Putin, but that's only 2 times. So
you don't think the Taiwan thing is going to be mentioned, or China, and that's another existential threat?
It could also be tied into the Russia conversation. If he can find another place to use that word, all it takes is 3, and you'll have it, Corey. How many mentions of Vladimir Putin and or Russia through the entirety of tonight's speech? I have the over-under set, Corey, at 4.5. That's a big number.
I'm going to take the under.
Under. I thought for sure you would take the over there. I am going to take the over here. I think there's going to be Russia throughout this speech. The Vegas odds would have this as a long shot bet on the over, I think. 4.5 is a huge number, but I'm feeling frisky. I'm going to take over on 4.5. I don't know how the hell we're going to keep track of that, but we're going to damn sure try. Does President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. discuss critical race theory at any point during the speech? No odds here, Corey, just a simple money line, yes or no.
I'm going to say no.
I'm going to agree with you, Corey. I think he's going to stay away from that. I think he's going to stay away from educational issues. And I don't think there's going to be any mention. There's going to be plenty of other ways for Joe Biden to mention race during this speech. I don't think critical race theory is going to be one of those talking points during tonight's speech. Does President Biden address Putin directly at any point during the speech? Again, another simple money line answer. No odds. Just yes or no.
I'm going to say yes. The whole world is going to be expecting him to say something.
I'm with you. I think he addresses Vladimir Putin directly because one of the big things about this speech that all of the pundits are talking about, especially the ones that I trust, which aren't many of them, is that he wants to appear strong. And the best way for him to appear strong is to look square in the camera, point and say, listen, man, right to Vladimir.
Listen here, Jack.
Right to Vladimir Putin himself. Mentions of January 6th and or white supremacy over under set at 1.5, Corey.
I'm going to say under.
Under. I'm going to go over. There's going to be a lot of chances to talk about race here. I think he says it at least twice. I'll take the over. And the president's Dr. Jill wife entering the chambers now as we speak. Let's get through this quickly. Number of accidental old white man ignorant comments that could be taken as a little bit racist. Corey, I have the line set at just 1/2, 0.5. Any slip-ups from Joe Biden that could be construed as accidentally racist or bigoted?
It's 1.5. Yeah. I'm going to say over.
It's 0.5. So he only has to do it once.
Okay. I'm going to say over for sure.
See, I'm maybe I'm putting a little bit too much faith in the president here again. I think he's going to be, hopped up on every drug that he could be given to make him as lucid as possible. I think he's going to be able to hold back on the conceived bigoted speech from an accidental old white man during this. I'm going to say he does not do it. I'll take the under. Number of times President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. loses track of what he's saying. I'm going to go, over under set at 1.5 for this one, Corey.
So it's going to be based on whether or not he loses his place on the teleprompter. 1.5.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, now we just talk about a stumble of words or him admittedly what was I going to say?
It's got to be a heavy stumble of words. Well, it'll be, you'll know it when you see it, Corey.
And it's at 1.5, you said?
Yes.
I'm going to go over.
You're going to go over. I'm going to go under for the same reason I went under on the last one. I think he's going to be pumped full of lots of speed. He's going to be ready to go tonight. He's not going to stumble more than one time. Hopefully 0. And our final line of the night, Corey. Overall length of Joseph Robinette Biden Jr.'s State of the Union address on this night, March 1st, the year of our Lord, 2022. Over under set at 1 hour and 5 minutes, and that is based on his opening speech from 4/28/21. Also averages from the last few presidents is where I got that line from. It's pretty arbitrary. I don't think there's any way to know. I'll go first on this, Corey, just because I'm hopeful. I'm going to take the under because I'm just hopeful it's going to be under an hour and 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm going to say under.
Both taking the under. And we are going to have these lines, if you're watching, scrolling across the screen as we go. We will tally them up to the best of our ability. You can maybe help us there at home as we bring you the president's speech. He has not entered the chamber yet. However, just minutes away. You know what's funny about this? Is as I'm watching all of these Congress people run around talking in the chambers, I feel nauseous. It just grosses me out because it's just like, how much of it is just these little small talks and how much of it is like, you're an asshole.
And
like,
none of it's like sincere. It's all people just gritting their teeth.
Even when Schumer and Pelosi are talking to each other, I'm like, I just feel like they want to have ridiculous hate sex with each other sometimes because of their ages. I just don't feel like either of them are capable of any performance there. Oh, the judicial branch of our government has now entered the chambers here. So we should be expecting the president here any minute. It's 9:01. Any last minute considerations, Corey, for this speech? I'm excited. This is the first time we've done a show like this with our live coverage, our pregame show, our instant reaction. It's going to be nothing like CNN, thank God.
Right. It's going to be vastly different.
Try to be objective here on this show, hence the name Libservative.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I hope that he has like answers, because right now we have a nation full of people full of questions, about whether nuclear war, our economy, a lot of things are going to, like I said, a lot of things change in the last week of how things are going to be in the world. And people are going to be looking to a president for those answers. And he better appear strong today because that'll definitely change the morale. Is he coming in?
I don't think he's coming in just yet. They're showing Ted Cruz. I think I just saw a booger come out of Ted's nose there. He wiped it away.
Do you remember when he had the booger on his mouth?
Would you say that this is the most consequential State of the Union speech since Bush after 9/11?
It's a big one. There's a lot of stuff going on. Like I said, like what's happening in Europe right now we haven't seen stuff like this in 50 years, 60 years.
Yeah,
an invasion like this.
It's just this incredible turn of events in Europe to which we've never seen in our lifetimes, Corey. And another thing that actually I just thought of that I'm really interested to see if Joe Biden addresses, and this is actually something that I give Donald Trump a lot of credit for, was when Donald Trump called out NATO and said, hey, look, you're not carrying your fair share. It's supposed to be at least 2% of GDP. And, with Putin being a crazy person, you don't know what the hell he's going to do next. You hope he stops at Ukraine, but I mean, let's not count on that. Even places like Germany and France and certain others that have been spending no money on defense to defend themselves and living under the guard of U.S. nuclear power. That is something that I hope Biden addresses. And the reason is because I think it's an automatic win for him, because I think these European countries are going to see, or are seeing already, that they're going to have to do that anyway. They're not going to have a choice.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. I was thinking about that the other day. What's happening now, and that people are praising Europe for doing this. Like, this is something that Trump was asking for like 2 years ago.
Hey,
and it's interesting too, because
got that right.
Another thing too is a lot of the weapons that Ukraine had to defend themselves is because Trump wanted to make it to where they had more lethal weapons to protect themselves.
I guess I can throw these idiots up on the screen here. Why the hell?
Yeah, why not?
What else? What am I waiting for? And there's the Wicked Witch of the West there on the right. She's making small talk with the vice president here. And hopefully we don't get thrown off. I mean, according to Creative Commons on C-SPAN, this should be okay. This should be a public domain deal here.
Yeah, I always thought that C-SPAN was a public domain deal, right?
It's not. You do have, not all the time,
but like a State of the Union address.
I think that counts. And it says anything that takes place in the chambers or the White House. Either way, what's the worst that could happen to us? They throw us off? Whatever.
We just got back out with a different stream.
Yeah,
You can't silence us, bitches.
And not to mention, this isn't for commercial use. Corey and I don't make any money yet. Hopefully at some point. Who do we got coming in? Oh, there he is. There he is.
Do they have the audio off? Or do you have the audio off?
I have the audio off. I don't want anything to...
You don't want to hear the presidential song? I guess let's start.
Oh, he just entered him. Or he just announced him. Here we go. Where's Hail to the Chief? Ladies and gentlemen, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. Entering the chambers. Let's see. I want you to watch him. I want you to see how he's walking. You see what I'm saying? He can't straighten his legs all the way. Everybody holding their gratuitous Ukrainian flags.
Yep.
President enters the chambers. Ole, 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 ole. Is this a soccer game? What's going on here?
Yeah, the claps are pretty unison, huh?
And to the Republicans' credit, no boos coming from the gallery.
It's a sign of rare bipartisanship.
There are just no boos coming from one side of the chamber. Oh, Justice Amy Coney Barrett looking beautiful as always. With not an ounce of makeup on her face. Come on, Joe. You can get there. Look at it. Look at him. Look at his legs. They just don't look like they straighten all the way.
No.
Oop, little bit of a hop.
Oh, he's got some pep in his step there, bud.
At that. All right. Ladies
and he made it.
The United States, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr.
He's already confused. God damn it.
Thank you, Nancy. Can I have a kiss?
Members of Congress, I have the high privilege and distinct honor of presenting to you the President of the United States.
Who, me?
Stay tuned for our post-game coverage here on Libservative.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you, General. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you. Please. Thank you so much. Madam Speaker, Madam Vice President, our First Lady and Second Gentleman.
Well, pitter patter, let's get at her.
Justice of the Supreme Court, my fellow Americans. Last year, COVID-19 kept us apart. This year, we're finally together again. Tonight, we meet as Democrats, Republicans, Independents, but most importantly, as Americans, with the duty to one another, to America, to the American people, to the Constitution, and an unwavering resolve that freedom will always triumph over tyranny. Thank you.
The room looks a little empty.
Six days ago, Russia's Vladimir Putin sought to shake the very foundations of the free world, thinking he could make it bend to his menacing ways. But he badly miscalculated. He thought he could roll into Ukraine and the world would roll over. Instead, he met with a wall of strength he never anticipated or imagined. He met the Ukrainian people. From President Zelensky to every Ukrainian, their fearlessness, their courage, their determination literally inspires the world. Groups of citizens blocking tanks with their bodies, everyone from students to retirees to teachers, turned soldiers defending their homeland. And in this struggle, President Zelensky said in his speech to the European Parliament, "Light will win over darkness." The Ukrainian ambassador to the United States is here tonight, sitting with the First Lady. Let each of us, if you're able to stand and send an unmistakable signal to the world of Ukraine. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Slava Ukraine. Looks like Dan's already had enough.
Strong, she's resolved. Yes. We, the United States of America, stand with the Ukrainian people. Throughout our history, we've learned this lesson. When dictators do not pay a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos. They keep moving, and the cost, the threats to America and America to the world keeps rising. That's why the NATO alliance was created, to secure peace and stability in Europe after World War II. The United States is a member, along with 29 other nations. It matters. American diplomacy matters. American resolve matters. Putin's latest attack on Ukraine was premeditated and totally unprovoked. He rejected repeated efforts at diplomacy. He thought the West and NATO wouldn't respond. He thought he could divide us at home, in this chamber, in this nation. He thought he could divide us in Europe as well. But Putin was wrong. We are ready. We are united, and that's what we did. We stayed united. We prepared extensively and carefully. We spent months building coalitions of other freedom-loving nations in Europe and the Americas, from America to the Asian and African continents, to confront Putin. Like many of you, I spent countless hours unifying our European allies. We shared with the world in advance what we knew Putin was planning and precisely how we would try to falsify and justify his aggression. We countered Russia's lies with the truth. And now that he's acted, the free world is holding him accountable, along with 27 members of the European Union, including France, Germany, Italy, as well as countries like the United Kingdom, Canada, Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, and many others, even Switzerland.
Hey, you're back.
Are inflicting pain on Russia and supporting the people of Ukraine.
Had to take a shit.
Putin is now isolated from the world more than he has ever been. Together,
If he mentions him more than once in the same speech, that's okay. Like in the same part.
I counted. I got him at 4 so far.
Okay, because I have him at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But he said it 4 times in that little segment.
Together, along with our allies, we are right now enforcing powerful economic sanctions. We're cutting off Russia's largest banks in the international financial system, preventing Russia's central bank from defending the Russian ruble, making Putin's $630 billion war fund worthless. We're choking Russia's access. We're choking Russia's access to technology that will sap its economic strength and weaken its military for years to come. Tonight, I say to the Russian oligarchs and the corrupt leaders who built billions of dollars off this violent regime, no more. The United States.
That's not a direct talk to Putin. That's to the oligarchs.
Correct.
The United States Department of Justice is assembling a dedicated task force to go after the crimes of the Russian oligarchs. We're joining with European allies to find and seize their yachts, their luxury apartments, their private jets. We're coming
their
for
yachts.
your ill-begotten gains. And tonight, I'm announcing that we will join our allies in closing off American airspace to all Russian flights, further isolating Russia and adding additional squeeze on their economy. He has no idea what's coming.
We just told him.
Already lost 30% of its value. The Russian stock market has lost 40% of its value, and trading remains suspended. The Russian economy is reeling.
Yeah, that's pretty wild, isn't it?
Is the one to blame. Together with our allies, we're providing support to the Ukrainians in their fight for freedom. Military assistance, economic assistance, humanitarian assistance. We're giving more than $1 billion of direct assistance to Ukraine, and will continue to aid the Ukrainian people as they defend their country and help ease their suffering.
Kamala looks like she needs to take a shit.
Like you just did.
I had to run away. State of the Unions do that to my
Let
belly.
me be clear. Our forces are not engaged and will not engage in the conflict with Russian forces in Ukraine. Our forces are not going to Europe to fight Ukraine, but to defend our NATO allies in the event that Putin decides to keep moving west. For that purpose, we have mobilized American ground forces.
Mentions
air
of Putin
squadrons,
definitely made the
ship
over if you're
deployments
keeping
to
track of
protect
our
NATO
lines
countries,
here.
Romania, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. And as I've made crystal clear,
It made it easy
the
for
United
him.
States and our allies will defend every inch of territory that is NATO territory with the full force of our collective power. Every single inch.
Doing terrific.
And we're clear-eyed. The Ukrainians are fighting back with pure courage. But the next few days, weeks, and months will be hard on them. Putin has unleashed violence and chaos. But while he may make gains on the battlefield, he'll pay a continuing high price over the long run. And a pound of Ukrainian people, proud, proud people, pound for pound, ready to fight with every inch of energy they have. They've known 30 years of independence, have repeatedly shown that they will not tolerate anyone who tries to take their country backwards. To all Americans, I'll be honest with you, as I always promised I would be. A Russian dictator invading a foreign country has cost around the world. And I'm taking robust action to make sure the pain of our sanctions is targeted at the Russian economy, and that we use every tool at our disposal to protect American businesses and consumers. Tonight, I can announce the United States has worked with 30 other countries to release 60 million barrels of oil from reserves around the world. America.
There we go. All right.
that
That's
effort.
one of the things I wanted, that everybody wanted to hear, right?
Releasing 30 million barrels of our own strategic petroleum reserve. And we stand ready to do more if necessary, united with our allies. These steps will help blunt gas prices here at home, but I know news about what's happening can seem alarming to all Americans. But I want you to know we're going to be okay. We're going to
Thank
be
God.
okay. When the history of this era is written, Putin's war in Ukraine will have left Russia weaker and the rest of the world stronger. Well, while it shouldn't,
I mean, I'm seeing people standing on both sides.
Yeah, it's one of the things we called for, right? We wanted to hear him
well, it
mention
shouldn't have
gas
taken
prices.
something so terrible for people around the world.
Look at that turtle.
What's at stake? Now everyone sees
Mitch.
it clearly. We see the unity among leaders of nations, a more unified Europe, a more unified West.
Nancy looked like
We
she's
see
adjusting
unity
her
among the
dentures.
people who are gathering in
that?
cities,
She probably
large crowds
is.
around the world, even in Russia, to demonstrate their support for the people of Ukraine. In the battle between democracy and autocracies, democracies are rising to the moment. and the world is clearly choosing the side of peace and security. This is the real test, and it's going to take time. So let us continue to draw inspiration from the iron will of the Ukrainian people. To our fellow Ukrainian Americans who forged the deep bond that connects our two nations, we stand with you. We stand with you. Putin may circle Kyiv with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people. He'll never extinguish their love of freedom, and he will never weaken the resolve of the free world.
Man, honestly,
Every time Harris looks at Biden, she's just got this love-struck look in her eyes, like, thank you for carrying my career, Joe.
In an America that has lived through two of the hardest years this
Look at her
nation
eyes.
has ever faced. The pandemic has been punishing, and so many families are living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to keep up with the rising cost of food, gas, housing, and so much more. I understand, like many of you did. My dad had to leave his home in Scranton, Pennsylvania to find work. So like many of you, I grew up in a family when the price of food went up, it was felt throughout the family. It had an impact. That's when one of the first things I did as president was fight to pass the American Rescue Plan. Because people were hurting. We needed to act, and we did. Few pieces of legislation have done more at a critical moment in our history to lift us out of a crisis. It fueled our efforts to vaccinate the nation and combat COVID-19, delivered immediate economic relief to tens of millions of Americans. It helped put food on the table. Remember those long lines of cars waiting for hours just to get a box of food put in their trunk? It cut the cost of health care insurance. And as my dad used to say, it gave the people just a little bit of breathing room. Unlike the $2 trillion tax cut passed in the previous administration.
Boom! One mention in the previous administration.
1% of Americans. The American Rescue Plan. The American Rescue Plan.
Sit down, Chuck.
Help working people.
Oh, whoa, what was that?
Sit down, please.
Sit down, please.
And it worked. It worked.
Oh my God, Nancy, chill out. You're gonna have a heart attack. Look at her. Your dentures are crooked, baby.
It worked. We created jobs, lots of jobs. In fact, our economy created over 6.5 million new jobs just last year. More jobs in 1 year than ever before in the history of the United States.
It's such a weird metric to go by.
It is.
The economy grew at a rate of 5.7 last year, the strongest growth rate in 40 years. And the first step in bringing fundamental change to our economy that hasn't worked
Mitch
for
McConnell
working
about
people in
to
this
cry?
nation for too long.
He always looks like
For the
he's
past
just
40
mad.
years, we were told
Looks like he hasn't
the
slept in
tax break for
4
those at the
decades.
top and benefits would trickle down and everyone would benefit. But that trickle-down theory led to a weaker economic growth, lower wages, bigger deficits, and a widening gap between the top and everyone else in nearly a century. Look, Vice President Harris and I ran for office.
There's one
And I
mention.
realize we have fundamental disagreements on this, but ran for office with a new economic vision for America. Invest in America. Educate Americans. Grow the workforce. Build the economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down. Because we know. Because we know. Because we know when the middle class grows, the poor have a way up and the wealthy do very well. America used to have
This
the
is
best
true.
roads, bridges, and airports on earth. And now our infrastructure is ranked 13th in the world. We won't be able to compete for the jobs of the 21st century if we don't fix it. That's why it was so important to pass.
Oh, look, he's on a maternity leave.
And I thank my Republican friends who joined to invest and rebuild America. The single biggest investment in history. It was a bipartisan effort, and I want to thank the members of both parties who worked to make it happen. We're done talking about infrastructure weeks. We're now talking about an infrastructure decade. And look, It's going to transform America, to put us on a path to win the economic competition of the 21st century that we face with the rest of the world, particularly China. I've told Xi Jinping it's never been a good bet to bet against the American people. We'll create good jobs for millions of Americans, modern ports, waterways, all across America. And we'll do it to withstand the devastating effects of climate change and promote.
He's thinking about AOC
justice.
naked right now. Look at him.
We'll build a national network of 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations. Begin to replace the poisonous lead pipes so every child, every American has clean water to drink at home and at school.
Slow down. Slow down on that, by the way.
Provide affordable.
Pump the brakes.
Feeding for every American, rural, suburban, urban, and tribal communities. 4,000 projects have already been announced. Many of you have announced them in your districts. And tonight, I'm announcing that this year, we will start fixing over 65,000 miles of highway and 1,500 bridges in disrepair.
That's not enough.
No, I think there's like 13,000 bridges. Which bridges? We're not going to tell you.
Runs in the rich neighborhoods.
Dollars to rebuild America. We're going to do it by buying America. Buy American products. Support American jobs.
It's a good sentiment.
The federal government spends about $600 billion a year to keep this country safe and secure. There's been a law on the books for almost a century to make sure taxpayers' dollars support American jobs and businesses. Every administration, Democrat and Republican, says they'll do it, but we're actually doing it. We'll buy America to make sure everything from the deck of an aircraft carrier to the steel on highway guardrails is made in America from beginning to end.
Well, the neocons just got hard.
We got hard dick about hard deck.
Look at Pelosi's boner as she stands up and claps.
To compete for the jobs of the future, we also need a level playing field with China and other competitors. That's why it's so important to pass the Bipartisan Innovation Act sitting in Congress that will make record investments in emerging technologies and American manufacturing. We used to invest almost 2% of our GDP in research and development. We don't now. China is. Let me give you one example why it's so important to pass. If you travel 20 miles east of Columbus, Ohio, you'll find 1,000 empty acres of land. It won't look like much, but if you stop and look closely, you'll see a field of dreams, the ground on which America's future will be built. That's where Intel, the American company that helped build Silicon Valley, is going to build a $20 billion semiconductor mega site, up to 8 state-of-the-art factories in one place, 10,000 new jobs. And in those factories, the average job about $135,000 a year. Some of the most sophisticated manufacturing in the world to make computer chips the size of a fingertip, the power of the world in everyday lives, from smartphones, technology, the internet, technology is yet to be invented. But that's just the beginning. Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger, who is here tonight, I don't know where Pat is. Pat, there you go, Pat, stand up.
Hi, Pat. Tell him to stand up.
Pat. Pat came to see me and he told me they're ready to increase their investment from $20 billion to $100 billion. That would be the biggest investment in manufacturing in American history. And all they're waiting for is for you to pass this bill. So let's not wait any longer. Send it to my desk, I'll sign it, and we'll really take off in a big way. And folks, Intel is not alone.
What's McCarthy doing?
There's something happening in America.
Texting
Just
his
look around
mistress.
and you'll see an amazing story. The rebirth of pride that comes from stamping products made in America. The revitalization of
See me
American
on TV, baby.
companies are choosing to build new factories here when just a few years ago they would have gone overseas. That's what's happening. Ford is investing $11 billion in electric vehicles, creating 11,000 jobs across the country. GM is making the largest investment in its history.
That's Granholm,
$7 billion
right? Yeah, that's
in
Granholm.
electric
Sure
vehicles,
is.
creating 4,000 jobs in Michigan. All told, 369,000 new manufacturing jobs were created in America last year alone. Folks, powered by people I've met like JoJo Burgess from generations of union steelworkers in Pittsburgh, who's here tonight. Where are you, JoJo? There you go. Thanks, buddy. As Ohio
Thanks, bud.
Senator Sherrod Brown says, it's time to bury the label Rust Belt. It's time to see the what used to be called.
There it is. That's one. That's one slip.
The home.
That's the second one. There was one when you were in the bathroom dropping a deuce.
Resurgence of manufacturing. And with all the bright spots in our economy, record job growth, higher wages, too many families are struggling to keep up with their bills. Inflation is robbing them of gains they thought otherwise they would be able to feel. I get it. That's why my top priority is getting prices under control. Look, our economy roared back faster than almost anyone predicted, but the pandemic meant that businesses had a hard time hiring enough people because of the pandemic to keep up production in their factories. So you didn't have people making those beams that went into buildings because they were out. The factory was closed. The panic also disrupted the global supply chain. Factories close. When that happens, it takes longer to make goods and get them to the warehouses, to the stores, and prices go up. Look at cars last year. 1/3 of all the inflation was because of automobile sales. There weren't enough semiconductors to make all the cars that people wanted to buy. And guess what? Prices of automobiles went way up, especially used vehicles as well. And so we have a choice. One way to fight inflation is to drive down wages and make Americans poor. I think
That's a lost track.
That's enough. Put down the mic.
Not your wages.
I already got the over on lost track of what he's saying.
Yeah, so did I.
That means make more cars and semiconductors in America, more infrastructure and innovation in America, more goods moving faster and cheaper in America, more jobs where you can earn a good living in America. Instead of relying on foreign supply chains, let's make it in America. Look, economists.
Oh, a USA chant.
Call this increasing the productive capacity of our economy. I call it building a better America. My plan to fight inflation will lower your cost and lower the deficit. 17 Nobel laureates in economics said my plan will ease long-term inflationary pressures. Top business leaders, and I believe most Americans support the plan. And here's the plan. First, cut the cost of prescription drugs.
Well, that's something everyone I think can get behind.
We pay more
Going for the
for
old
same
Betty's there.
drug produced by the same company in America than any other country in the world. Just look at insulin.
Did Bernie write that
1 in
part?
10 Americans has diabetes. In Virginia, I met a 13-year-old boy, the handsome young man standing up there, Joshua Davis.
He's diabetes.
He and his dad both have
diabetes.
type 1 diabetes, which means they need insulin every single day. Insulin costs about $10 a vial to make. That's what it costs the pharmaceutical company. But drug companies charge families like Joshua and his dad up to 30 times that amount. I spoke with Joshua's mom. Imagine what it's like to look at your child who needs insulin to stay healthy and have no idea how in God's name you're going to be able to pay for it. What it does to your family, but what it does to your dignity, your ability to look your child in the eye, to be the parent you expect yourself to be.
Berating this
You
kid's
don't even
parents.
think about that. That's what I think about.
Boy, they didn't feel
You know-
shitty already.
Yesterday was his birthday. Happy
Rub
birthday.
it in on national TV.
For Joshua and 200,000 other young people with type 1 diabetes, let's cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month so everyone can afford it.
Hey, President Biden
And
just
drug
tweeted. I don't
companies
know how
will
that
do
happened.
Very, very well. Their profit margin. While we're at it, I know we have great disagreements on this floor with this. Let's let Medicare negotiate the price of prescription drugs.
That's an interesting concept.
They already set the price for VA drugs. Look, the American Rescue Plan is helping millions of families with Affordable Care Act plans to save them $2,400 a year on their health premiums. Let's close the coverage gap and make these savings permanent. And second, let's cut energy costs for families, an average of $500 a year by combating climate change. Let's provide an investment tax credits to weatherize your home and your business, to be energy efficient and get a tax credit for it. Double America's clean energy production in solar, wind, and so much more. Lower the price of electric vehicles, saving another
Where's your girl?
$8 a month that you're not going to have to pay.
It's
at the
everybody's
pump.
girl. They just want to date me.
Third,
She
the third
doesn't
thing
look
we can
happy.
do to change the standard of
Doesn't look
living
happy.
for hardworking folks is cut the cost of child care. Cut the cost of child care. Folks, if you live in a major city in America, you pay up to $14,000 a year for child care per child. I was a single dad for 5 years, raising 2 kids. I had a lot of help, though. I had a mom, a dad, a brother, and a sister that really helped. But middle class and working folks shouldn't have to pay more than 7% of their income to care for the young children. My plan
It's 7%.
would cut the cost of child care in half.
Candace
for most
Owens
families.
just tweeted 19 minutes ago. Anybody
And
else
help
watching the
parents,
State of the
including millions of
European
women who
Union
left the
tonight?
workforce during the pandemic because they couldn't afford
What does that
child
even mean?
She's an idiot. That's what it means.
generating economic growth. But my plan doesn't stop there. It also includes home and long-term care, more affordable housing, pre-K for 3 and 4-year-olds. All these will lower costs to families. And under my plan, nobody, let me say this again, nobody earning less than $400,000 a year will pay an additional penny in new taxes. Not a single penny.
Can I get a glass of water?
I may be wrong.
He needs one.
But my guess is if we took a secret ballot in this floor, that we'd all agree that the present tax system ain't fair. We have to fix it. I'm not looking to punish anybody. But let's make corporations and wealthy Americans start paying their fair share. Look.
Oh, yeah.
Last year,
He's wearing a sunflower.
like
That's for Ukraine.
and Tom Carper
Her. Elizabeth
and
Warren,
my distinguished
represent.
Congresswoman, we come from the land of corporate America. There are more corporations incorporated in America than every other state in America combined. And I still won 36 years in a row. The point is, even they understand they should pay just a fair share. Last year, 55 of the Fortune 500 companies earned $40 billion in profit and paid 0 in federal taxes. No,
Yeah,
look,
that is something that pisses me off too.
fair. That's
It's
why
all
I
of us.
proposed the
He's gone very
15% minimum
populist
tax
so
rate
far
for
in this speech.
corporations.
I would actually call this extremely wrong.
In the G7 and other meetings overseas, I was able to be somewhat helpful. 130 countries agree on a global minimum tax rate. So companies can't get out of paying their taxes at home by shipping jobs and factories overseas. It'll raise billions of dollars. That's why I propose closing loopholes for the very wealthy who pay a lower tax rate than a teacher and a firefighter. So that's my plan, but we'll go in more detail later. We will grow the economy, lower the cost of families. So what are we waiting for? Let's get this done. We all know we've got to make changes. Folks,
I'm going to go grab a beverage. I will be watching on my journey.
confirm my nominees for the Federal Reserve, which plays a critical role in fighting inflation. My plan will not only lower costs and give families a fair shot, it will lower the deficit. The previous administration not only ballooned the deficit with those tax cuts for the very wealthy and corporations, it undermined the watchdogs, the job of those to keep pandemic relief funds being wasted. Remember we had those debates about whether or not those watchdogs should be able to see every day how much money was being spent, where was it going to the right place? But in my administration, the watchdogs are back. And we're going to go after the criminals who stole billions of relief money meant for small business and millions of Americans. Tonight, I'm announcing that the Justice Department will soon name a chief prosecutor for pandemic fraud.
Well, pitter patter, let's get at her.
Look, I think we all agree, thank you. By the end of this year, the deficit will be down to less than half of what it was before I took office. The only president ever to cut the deficit by more than $1 trillion in a single year. Lowering your cost also meant demanding more competition. I'm a capitalist, but capitalism without competition is not capitalism. Capitalism without competition is exploitation. It drives up profits. And corporations have to compete. Their profits go up and your prices go up when they don't have to compete. Small businesses and family farmers and ranchers, I need not tell some of my Republican friends from those
Can they just
states.
show Mitch McConnell the whole time while
You got
Biden's
4
speaking?
basic meat
I don't even want to
packages.
see Joe anymore. Just give me
That's
Mitch.
it. You play with them or you don't get to play at all. And you pay a hell of a lot more. A hell of a lot more because there's only 4. See what's happening with ocean carriers and moving goods in and out of the river.
Jesus Christ.
During the
Biden.
pandemic, about half a dozen
Some
or less
Robitussin over there.
foreign-owned companies raised prices by as much as 1,000% and made record profits. Tonight, I'm announcing a crackdown on those companies overcharging American businesses and consumers. And folks, and as Wall Street firms take over more nursing homes, quality in those homes has gone down and costs have gone up. That ends on my watch. Medicare is going to set higher standards for nursing homes and make sure your loved ones get the care they deserve and that they inspect and they will look at closely. We're also going to cut costs to keep the economy going strong and giving workers a fair shot, provide more training and apprenticeships, hire them based on skills, not just their degrees. Let's pass the Paycheck Fairness Act and paid leave. Raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour and extend the child tax credit so no one has to raise a family in poverty. Let's increase Pell Grants, increase our historic support for HBCUs, and invest in what Jill, our First Lady who teaches full-time, calls America's best kept secret, community colleges. Look, let's pass the PRO Act. When a majority of workers want to form a union, they shouldn't be able to be stopped.
I like that.
When we invest in our workers and we build an
Go,
economy
Dr.
from the
Jill
bottom
Wife.
up and the middle out together, we can do something we haven't done in a long time. Build a better America. For more than 2 years, COVID has impacted every decision in our lives and the life of this nation. And I know you're tired, frustrated, and exhausted. That doesn't even count the close to 1 million people who sit at a dining room table or a kitchen table and look at an empty chair.
You said that probably like
Because
30 times now in the last year.
But I also know this, because of the progress we've made, because of your resilience and the tools that we have been provided by this Congress, tonight I can say we're moving forward safely back to more normal routines. We've reached a new moment in the fight against COVID-19, where severe cases are down to a level not seen since July of last year. Just a few days ago, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention issued a new mask guidelines. Under the new guidelines, most Americans and most of the country can now go mask-free. And based on projections, more of the country will reach a point across,
there's Marge.
Across the next couple of weeks.
That's your girl. Why is she?
My girl. Get the fuck out of here.
She should want to hear what he just said.
Control our lives. I know some are talking about living with COVID-19, but tonight I say that we never will just accept living with COVID-19. We'll continue to combat the virus as we do other diseases. And because this virus mutates and spreads, we have to stay on guard. And here are 4 common sense steps as we move forward safely, in my view. First, stay protected with vaccines and treatments. We know how incredibly effective vaccines are. If you're vaccinated and boosted, you have the highest.
Interesting. That's the first time I've actually heard vaccines being
We'll
pushed
never
in a
give up
while.
on vaccinating more Americans. Now, I know parents with kids under 5 are eager to see their vaccines authorized for their children.
No, they're not.
Scientists are working hard to get that done. We'll be ready with plenty of vaccines if and when they do. We're all ready. We are also ready with antiviral treatments. If you get COVID-19, the Pfizer pill reduces your chances of ending up in the hospital by 90%. I've ordered more pills than anyone in the world has. Pfizer's
So has his son.
For personal use or like, what are we talking about here, bro?
And now we're launching the Test to Treat initiative. So people can get tested at a pharmacy, and if they prove positive, receive the antiviral pills on the spot at no cost. Folks,
Which is good because I feel like people are more apt at like taking a
if you're
pill.
Notice how no mention of monoclonal antibodies.
He said antiviral,
or have some other vulnerability.
but then
Yeah,
he meant not
it's-
talking about the pill.
and free
Yeah,
high-quality
He also
masks.
pushed the Pfizer pill.
We're leaving no
Come on.
one behind or ignoring anyone's needs. as we move
explicitly by
forward.
name.
On testing, we've made hundreds of millions of tests available, and you can order them for free to your doorstep. And we've already ordered free tests. If you already ordered free tests tonight, I'm announcing you can order.
You get
another-
one free hat.
Go to covidtest.gov starting next week, and you can get more tests.
Do I get a
We must
lollipop with my
prepare
test?
for
I'm
new
not sure
variants.
who's that. That's one of the new
Over the
Republicans, right?
past, we've gotten much better at detecting new variants. If necessary, we'll be able to develop new vaccines within 100 days instead of maybe months or years. And if Congress provides the funds we need, we'll have new stockpiles of tests, masks, pills ready if needed. I can't promise a new variant won't come, but I can promise you we'll do everything within our power to be ready if it does.
Brought to you by Pfizer.
Moderna always gets left out in the cold.
We can end the shutdown of schools and businesses. We have the tools we need. It's time for America to get back to work and fill our great downtowns again with people. People working from home can
Coughing on each other.
begin to return to their offices.
Like Biden is.
We're in the federal government.
He's like,
The vast majority
come hang out with me.
once again work in person. Our schools are open. Let's keep it that way. Our kids need to be in school.
It's interesting the Democrats have how that quickly they're really pushing that ever since North Carolina upset.
Yeah, I mean, they know they're going to get steamrolled in the midterms, and they've got to roll back these
75%
restrictions. They have to.
75% of adult Americans fully vaccinated, and hospitalizations down by 77%. Most Americans can remove their masks and stay in the classroom and move forward safely. We achieved this because we provided free vaccines treatments, tests, and masks. Of course, continuing this costs money, so I'll not surprise you. I'll be back to see you all. And I'm going to soon send a request to Congress. The vast majority of Americans have used these tools and may want again. We may need them again, so I expect Congress, and I hope you'll pass that quickly. Fourth, we'll continue vaccinating the world. We've sent 475 million vaccine doses to 112 countries, more than any nation on earth. We won't stop.
Not enough.
You can't build a wall high enough to keep out a vaccine. The vaccine can stop the spread of these diseases.
What?
We've lost so much in COVID-19. Time with one another. The worst of all, the loss of life. Let's use this moment to reset. So stop looking at COVID as a partisan dividing line. See it for what it is, a god-awful disease. Let's stop seeing each other as enemies and start seeing each other for who we are, fellow Americans. Look.
Yeah, as we gear up for war, we got to be united.
We can't change how divided we've been. It was a long time in coming. But we can change how to move forward on COVID-19 and other issues that we must face together. I recently visited New York City Police Department days after the funerals of Officer Wilbur Mora and his partner, Officer Jason Rivera. They were responding to a 9/11 call when a man shot and killed them with a stolen gun. Officer Moore was 27 years old. Officer Rivera was 22 years old. Both Dominican Americans who grew up in the same streets that they later chose to patrol as police officers. I spoke with their families, and I told them that we were forever in debt for their sacrifices and will carry on their mission to restore the trust and safety of every community deserves. Like some of you that have been around for a while, I've worked with you on these issues for a long time. I know what works. Investigating crime prevention and community policing, cops who walk the beat, who know the neighborhood, and who can restore trust and safety. Let's not abandon our streets or choose between safety and equal justice. Let's come together and protect our communities, restore trust, and hold law enforcement accountable. That's why the Justice Department has required body cameras, banned chokeholds, and restricted no-knock warrants for its officers. That's why the American Rescue Plan that you all provided $350 billion.
Wait,
States and counties.
Who nixed no-knock warrants?
To hire more police, invest in more proven
Missed it.
strategies.
Sorry.
You said something about no-knock warrants, a federal ban. And they tried to do that federal ban on chokeholds.
Proven strategies like.
But we just covered that one poor kid in Minneapolis getting killed.
Interruption, trusted messaging,
no-knock
breaking the
warrants.
cycle of violence and trauma, and giving young people some hope. We should all agree the answer is not to defund the police, it's to fund the police.
We're going to make the police fun.
Totally agree with that, Joe.
Fund them.
Fund the police.
We're going to make them fun.
Fund them with resources and training.
Yeah, the training. That's the thing.
Training they need
absolutely.
to protect our community.
He's right about that. 100%.
I asked Democrats and Republicans alike to pass my budget and keep our neighborhoods safe. And we'll do everything in my power to crack down on gun trafficking of ghost guns that you can buy online, assemble at home, no serial numbers, can't be traced. I asked Congress for proven measures to reduce gun violence. Pass universal background checks. Why should anyone on the terrorist list
odd clap
be
she's
able
doing.
to purchase a weapon? Why?
See, but that's the thing. I'm going to write that down because we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ban assault weapons with high-capacity magazines hold up 100 rounds. You think the deer are wearing Kevlar vests?
Jesus.
Look, repeal the liability shield. It makes gun manufacturers the only industry in America that can't be sued. The only one.
I don't think that's exactly
had we done
true.
that with the tobacco manufacturers. These laws don't infringe on the Second Amendment. They save lives.
There's
The
Lauren
most
Boebert. There's your
fundamental
girl.
right in America is the right to vote.
She is easy on
She's,
the
no,
eyes.
she's looking down. She's literally tweeting
And
right
look,
now. And I think it's actually
It's under
her.
assault. In
I've been
state
watching
after state, new
Twitter.
laws have been passed.
Oh, have you?
So is
Not
Marge
only to
Green.
suppress the vote, we've been there before, but to subvert the entire election. We can't let this happen. Tonight, I call on the Senate to pass the Freedom to Vote Act, pass the John Lewis Act, Voting Rights Act. And while you're at it, pass the Disclose Act so Americans know who's funding our election. Look, tonight, I like to honor someone who dedicated his life to serve this country. Justice Breyer, an Army veteran, constitutional scholar, retired justice of the United States Supreme Court. Justice
You did
Breyer,
great, so we're forcing them out.
for your service. Thank you.
Like, get the fuck out of here.
Give up. Can't let him see you. Thank you.
I can't. That's why I'm retiring.
And we all know, no matter what your ideology, we all know one of the most serious constitutional responsibility a president has is nominating someone to serve
He's in love with Joe
on the
Biden.
United States Supreme Court. As I did 4 days ago, I've nominated the Circuit Court of Appeals, Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Dude, that is something I'm
Our
so
nation's
fucking happy about.
Who continue in Justice Breyer's legacy of excellence. A former top litigator in private practice, a former federal public defender, from a family of public school educators and police officers. She's a consensus builder. Since she's been nominated, she's received a broad range of support, including the Fraternal Order of Police and former judges supported by Democrats and Republicans.
She used to be a criminal defense lawyer, too.
She sure
If we're to
was.
advance liberty and justice,
Public defender.
Yeah.
we need to secure our border and fix the immigration system.
He's speaking real bipartisan with that one.
He's honestly been remarkably populist. I would so far call this a relative success.
Yeah,
So-
and I agree. He's actually not doing a half-bad job.
Yes, I think we can do both. At our border, we've installed new technology like cutting-edge scanners to better detect drug smuggling. We've set up joint patrols with Mexico and Guatemala to catch more human traffickers. We're putting in place dedicated immigration judges in a significant larger number so families fleeing persecution and violence can have their cases heard faster, and those who don't legitimately hear can be sent back. We're screening, we're securing commitments and supporting partners in South and Central America to host more refugees and secure their own borders. We can do all this while keeping lit the torch of liberty that has led a generation of immigrants to this land, my forebears and many of yours. Provide a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, those with temporary status, farm workers, essential workers. Revise our laws so businesses have workers they need and families don't wait decades to reunite. It's not only the right thing to do, it's economically smart thing to do. That's why the immigration reform is supported by everyone from labor unions to religious leaders to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Let's get it done once and for all. Folks,
Come on, man.
You got it.
liberty and justice also requires protecting the rights of women. The constitutional right affirmed by Roe v. Wade, standing precedent for half a century, is under attack as never before.
And the
If we wanna
bipartisan
go
stuff's about
forward,
to go
not
out the window.
backwards, we must protect access to health care, preserve a woman's right to choose, and continue to advance maternal health care for all Americans. And folks,
They show Amy Coney Barrett
LGBTQ plus Americans,
looking lovely
let's
as
finally
always.
get the Bipartisan Equality Act to my desk. The onslaught of state laws targeting transgender Americans and their families, it's simply wrong. And I've said
Uh-oh.
last year, especially to our younger transgender Americans, I'll always have your back as your president so you can be yourself and reach your God-given potential. Folks,
As a constitutionalist, I can't disagree.
Yeah. Let's just see where this goes.
Just demonstrated, while it often appears we do not agree, and that we do agree on a lot more things than we acknowledge. I signed 80 bipartisan bills into law last year, from preventing government shutdowns, protecting aged Americans from still too common hate crimes, to reforming military justice, and will soon be strengthening the Violence Against Women Act that I first wrote 3 decades ago. It's important. It's important for us to show the nation we can come together and do.
No, Pelosi, this means our husbands can't hit us anymore.
The unity agenda for the
That's
nation.
what she's telling her.
4 big things we can do together, in my view. First, beat the opioid epidemic. There's so much we can do. Increase funding for prevention, treatment, harm reduction, and recovery. Get rid of outdated rules and stop.
Well, that's why ASC's pissed. Look how far back they put her. She's up in the nosebleed seats.
Prescribing
Because she's a problem.
treatments.
Look, Rashida Tlaib's even higher up.
Stop
See
the
that?
flow of illicit
Yes.
with state and local law enforcement to go after the traffickers.
Keep the brown people at the
If
back
you're
of the room.
suffering
What are we
from
doing?
How did Marjorie Taylor Greene get a better seat than
you're
them?
not alone. I believe in recovery, and I celebrate the 23 million Americans in recovery. Second, let's take on mental health, especially among our children whose
Stabbing out.
lives and education have been turned upside down.
Looks like Nancy
American
Reagan.
Rescue
More and more
Plan
like
gave
Nancy
schools
Reagan
money
every
to
day.
hire teachers and help students make up for lost learning. I urge every parent to make sure your school does just that. They have the money. We can all play a part.
I think we're about to hit the over on time
here.
here, Corey.
Children were also struggling before the pandemic. Bullying, violence, trauma,
Yeah, we are. We're a minute
and the
away.
harms of social media. As Frances Haugen, who is here tonight with us, has shown, we must hold social media platforms accountable for the national experiment they're conducting on our children for profit. Folks, thank you.
Oh,
Thank you for the courage you showed.
I thought he was ending the
It's
speech.
time to strengthen
Folks,
privacy
thank you.
protections. Ban targeted advertising to children. Demand tech companies stop collecting personal data on our children. And let's get all
What
Americans
about suicide
the
calls?
services they need. More
Is
people
that a whataboutism?
turn for help and full parity
Lauren
between
Boebert would say
physical
so.
and mental health care if we treat it that way in our insurance. Look, the third piece of that agenda is support our veterans. Veterans are the backbone and the spine.
There's a bipartisan cheer for you.
They're the best of
Very
us.
populist.
I've always believed that we have a sacred obligation to equip those.
So the military and the judicial branch, I've noticed they don't stand up and clap for anything.
I don't think they're allowed to.
My administration provided.
Yeah, not necessarily
job
allowed
training,
to, but
housing,
it doesn't.
now helping lower income
It,
veterans get VA care debt free.
I
And our
think they
troops in
kind of have
Iraq
to, you know.
faced in Afghanistan face
optics.
many dangers. One being stationed at bases breathing in toxic smoke from burn pits.
The military's like, shut the fuck up.
What's Pelosi
I've been in
doing?
and out of
Why
Iraq and Afghanistan
is she
over
like rubbing her
40
hands
times.
together?
I don't know.
It's an incinerate waste, the waste of war
That's Trey Gowdy, right?
and hazardous
believe so.
material, jet fuel, and so much more. And they come home. Many of the
I can't
world's
feel my hands.
She's got
There's
an
no
old
way
lady.
in
She's
the
got an
world.
old lady boner right now.
never
What
the
is she
same.
doing?
Headaches, numbness, dizziness,
Someone's on the earbud going,
cancer.
put your
They will
fucking
put you
hands
in
down.
a flag draped coffin. I know.
Oh shit! What was that?
One of those soldiers
coughed,
was my
I'm sorry.
son, Major Bo Biden. I don't know for sure if the burn pit that he lived near, that his hooch was near, in Iraq,
hooch?
Did what?
earlier than that, in Kosovo,
The hell
is
is
the
it?
cause
What?
of his brain cancer, the disease of so many
That's a
other
lost track.
But I am committed
We already hit the over
to
on that.
find out everything we can committed to military families like Danielle Robinson from Ohio, the widow of Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson, He was born a soldier, Army National Guard, combat medic in Kosovo and Iraq, stationed near Baghdad, just yards from burn pits the size of football fields. Danielle is here with us tonight. They love going to Ohio State football games.
Boo. The Ohio State thing. Everybody relax. I'm a Michigan fan.
Yeah, you just boo. The wife of a
Widow?
veteran.
That's not what I
They
meant.
love burning Legos with their daughter. But cancer from prolonged exposure to burn pits ravaged Heath's lungs and body. Danielle says Heath was a fighter to the very end. He didn't know how to stop fighting, and neither did she. Through her pain, she found purpose to demand that we do better. Tonight, Danielle, we are going to do better. The VA is pioneering new ways of linking toxic exposure to disease, already helping more veterans get benefits. And tonight, I'm announcing we're expanding eligibility to veterans suffering from 9 respiratory cancers. I'm also calling on Congress to pass a law to make sure veterans devastated by toxic exposure in Iraq and Afghanistan finally get the benefits and the comprehensive health care they deserve.
Oh my God, Pelosi she's got to be on speed. They hopped her up with something.
She does seem a little ecstatic.
She wears those heavy coats. Her nipples are rock hard right now.
Let's end cancer as we know it. This is personal. This is personal to me and to Jill and to Kamala and so many of you.
That's the second mention of the
So
vice
many
president.
of you have lost someone. Husband, wife,
I just got the
father,
over.
dad. Cancer is the number 2 cause of death in America, second only to heart disease. Last month, I announced the plan to supercharge the cancer moonshot that President Obama asked me to lead 6 years ago. Our goal is to cut cancer death rates by at least 50% over the next 25 years. I think we can do better than that. Turn cancers from death sentences into treatable diseases. More
We don't want to kill him. We just want to maim him.
To get there, I call on Congress to fund what I call ARPA-H, Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health, patterned after DARPA and the Defense Department, projects that led in DARPA to the internet, GPS, and so much more that make our forces more safer and be able to wage war with more clarity.
That landed a
ARPA
little
will have a
rough.
singular purpose. Cancer,
Like Leonard Skinner's
Alzheimer's, and
plane.
diabetes. More. A unity agenda for the nation. We can do these things.
What is
It's
this,
within our
LeBron's pilot? Oh,
And I don't see a partisan
Kobe.
edge to any one
oh
of
yeah,
those.
that's that man. Yep, that one. That
My
too.
fellow Americans, tonight we
Joe Manchin's struggling to stay awake right now.
A citadel of democracy in this capital. Generation after generation of Americans have debated great questions amid great strife and have done great things. We fought for freedom, expanded liberty, debated totalitarianism and terror. We built the strongest, freest, and most prosperous nation the world has ever known. Now is the hour, our moment of responsibility,
Mitt's underwear riding up.
our test of resolve and conscience, of history itself. It is in this moment that our character of this generation is formed. Our purpose is found. Our future is forged. Well, I know this nation.
Adam Schiff.
We'll meet the test.
Shifty
You know,
shit.
I feel like his
Freedom,
eyes receded
expand
like
fairness
3
and
centimeters since
opportunity.
Trump got out of office.
And we will save democracy. As hard as those
Dude,
times
it's weird, I
have been, I'm
swear.
more optimistic about America today than I've been my whole life because I see the
I'm
future that's
president.
within our grasp. Because I know there's simply nothing.
Is Mitch
beyond
even
our
actually there?
Capacity.
Or did they just
We're
put
the
it like
only
a
nation
He's in sleep mode. He's just a blow up doll of Mitch McConnell.
paper mache version of Mitch
The only
McConnell
nation
sitting
that
there?
can be defined by a single word, possibilities. So on this night, on our 245th year as a nation,
Oh, these are my favorite parts of the
report on the
Biden
state of
speeches
the
when he
nation,
just gets
the State
mad,
of
but
the
he's like,
Union. And my
the
report is
emotion of being angry
the State
doesn't
of the
equate
Union is
with like
strong
what he's
because
saying.
You, the American
The speed is
people,
kicking in.
are strong.
Like, why does he sound mad that there's possibilities in America?
We are stronger today than we were a year ago.
Well, because he's an
And we'll be
establishment
stronger
guy. He
years
doesn't
from
want
now
possibilities in America.
than we are today. This is our moment to meet and overcome the challenges of our time. And we will, as one people, one America, the United States of America.
Damn it!
God bless you all, and may God protect our troops.
I'm waiting for an old man. God damn it!
Thank you. Go get him.
What?
Go get who? What?
That's enough. Put down the mic.
We definitely hit the over
Yep,
by just a few minutes.
barely though.
Yeah, I think an hour 5 was good. President of the United States, leave the chambers. Making out with Debbie Stabenow and Amy Klobuchar.
Getting cheap fills on all the women and men too.
Tally.
Oh, look at that grab. Old creepy Joe. Caressing biceps.
Tally up some of these over-unders. I think we got them all.
Old Chuck Schumer.
I had a rough night.
Just standing in Biden's way as he's trying to talk to other people. Looking for the photo op.
Can I get a kiss too, Joe? I had a rough night on these bets, Corey.
Everybody's just about to go wasted.
Tallying these bad boys up right now. Oh, there's a winner.
You know, it's kind of funny. I'm looking at now the idea of him addressing Putin. We both said he would. And he didn't. It reminds me of when.
Yeah.
It reminds me of when Nick Cannon was making all those diss tracks against Eminem, trying to get Eminem to respond, and Eminem just didn't. And it's like it's like almost like more of a diss to just not respond than to actually take the time to do something about it.
Yeah, more or less. Should we tally up these bets from tonight's over-unders, Corey Walsh?
Yeah, I'm down for that.
I had a rough night, Corey. How many times will President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. mention or blame the previous administration? You and I both took the over on that at 2.5. He only did it once that I caught. Did you catch another time or two other times?
I got one.
Just the one right at the beginning. So 0 for 1 for you and me. How many mentions of Vice President Kamala Harris over-under was set at 1.5? We had 2.
I
So
won that one.
You are currently 1-1. I am 0 for 2. How many times will President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. utter the phrase existential threat? Over-under set at 2.5. I had a tally of 0.
Not a damn time.
That puts me at 1 and 2, and you at 1 and 2 as well, right?
He mentioned Putin and Russia interchangeably.
Track over there. Are we both 1 and 2 currently?
Yes.
How many mentions of Vladimir Putin and or Russia through the entirety of the speech? Over-under set at 4.5. It was at least 5, but it might have been as many as like 12.
So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because he was saying it with like in the same segment, but he was saying those words and those stipulations weren't, I guess, clarified before. So it's technically over. So I have myself as a loss.
So that puts me at, I took the over. That puts me at 2 and 2. That puts you at 1 and 3. But here's where it gets ugly. Does President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. discuss critical race theory? Yes or no? We both said no. We are both winners there. Puts me at 3 and 2. That puts you at 2 and 3, if I am counting this correctly. Does Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. address Putin directly at any point? That was a yes or no. We both said yes. He did not do it. That is
No, he did. He said, "Go get him."
Oh, at the end. Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't think that was that. I was just kidding.
It doesn't matter. Either way, we both answered yes. So it's a win, 2 wins or 2 losses, whichever one you want to say.
No, we lost. We both lost that one.
So what is that? That puts me at 3 and 4, right?
Is that what you're? Yeah, I'm at 1 and. Or I'm at 2 and 4.
Oh, so that puts me at 3 and 3.
Yeah. Because you said, wait, no. Oh, yeah, no, the existential threat, you went under.
I did. Mentions of January 6th and or white supremacy over-under was set at 1.5. I don't think he said anything about either of those things.
Nope, I put under.
Even so, if he did, he only did it once, which gives you the win on that one. I will take a loss. That puts me at 3 and 4, and you at 3 and 4, I believe, right?
Yep.
Number of accidental old man ignorant comments that could be construed as a little bit racist. The over-under was just 0.5. I don't think he did it, Corey.
He did it.
That's a winner for me and a loser for you, as you took the over. I took the under. Puts me at 4 and 4, and you at 3 and 5. Wow, I didn't do as badly as I thought. Number of times President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. loses track of what he's saying. I mean, the over.
There was one very definitive one.
The over-under was 1.5. I can assure you it was at least 2. I'm willing to concede that loss.
Yeah, I put 4.
You got the over. I got the under. That puts me at 4 and 5, and you at 4 and 5, right?
Yeah. Here it is.
Overall length of the speech, we are both losers here, Corey. This is a draw. We both took the under on 1:05, and it was over 1:05. So 4 and 6 for both of us, I believe, Corey.
Oh, that's what it's looking like.
Wow. I thought it was a rough night for me, but that's generally how gambling goes anyway. You just lose a couple more than you win, and that's why nobody gets rich. Gambling.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was a fun activity. With 4 and 6, wish we had played some odds.
We put the fun
back in the police.
Yeah, and back into the police.
Instant reaction from me, Corey. Honestly, slurs, and I was checking Twitter the whole time, and all you had was people like Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Newsmax folks and the Fox News folks basically just making fun of Biden for the way that he talks. I mean, to me, it's low-hanging fruit, right? Like, what was the substance? We all know he slurs a little bit. We all know he's old. We get it. Considering all of those circumstances, though, I consider that a pretty damn good speech. And I say that with a grain of salt because I'm not in overall approval of Joe Biden. But one of the things that he got he did a really nice job with was, I thought a lot of that speech was extremely populist, right? He talked about things like paid leave and wanting to give people automatic paid leave. He talked about minimum wage, which isn't necessarily populist, but I think in most circles it is. He talked about the Disclose Act so that we know who's funding our elections. Yep. He talked about holding Congress people accountable for their stock trades and what have you, which is definitely a populist thing. And he talked about veteran support, VA care that comes out debt free. And and here's the thing. Here's what makes that so interesting to me. We've talked on this show since we started it. You and I have had conversations before we even began the show. I'm sure you've talked to others and I've talked to others. It doesn't take a whole lot for a president to go out and deliver a decent State of the Union speech when he sticks to populist issues. All you have to do is know what those populist issues are. And I think so often they don't, because they're so stuck in their little bubbles, whether it's Donald Trump or Joe Biden or any president before either of those two, they don't care. They don't care to look into what those populist issues are. So I will give Joe Biden credit in that it seemed like he did a decent job of that. Now, there was some partisan stuff in there, which you would expect. But I think overall, I would say at least 2/3 of that speech were pretty populist.
I'd say almost 4/5.
Oh, we're breaking down fractions now here on Libservative.
Doing some math. But yeah, no, I mean, because like he was talking about the insulin prices. He was talking about having Medicare negotiate drug prices. He was like community college, like really just diving into just like the average American populace, for lack of a better word. But yeah, no, he was really sticking to just the things that unite us, the things that don't divide us.
The only thing that we have to see that remains to be seen, and I'm super cynical on this, is he actually going to make anything happen with any of these issues?
Right. Is this just rhetoric? Now let's put the I'm sounding like Joe Biden now. Let's put our money where the mouth is and actually make some shit happen.
I seriously doubt that's going to happen, Corey.
Yeah, I know. The speech was okay though.
Things he got wrong. Obviously, the bullshit job numbers.
Yeah, that's such a weird metric. It's such a weird metric because like they're measuring it on 1 year and they're saying it's like the most the president's ever had or whatever, when it's like we're trying to compare this to other presidents who've had 4 years, 8 years, and they're comparing this little snippet to like a presidential's like full term. And it's just like, I don't know. That's how you play with numbers when we talk about statistics and stuff.
Isn't it interesting how presidents are always able to bullshit their job numbers? Like the issue with Trump's job numbers were always, he always touted the unemployment numbers, right? Unemployment numbers were at a record low, but what was never mentioned under Trump was the fact that so many of those people were working really, really shitty jobs that didn't get them above the poverty line. So yeah, you could say that technically, a huge percentage of the American population was not unemployed. However, it didn't do anything to raise more people out of poverty. And so that was kind of the bullshit that Trump tried to play. And then Biden's trying to play the bullshit of, oh my God, we added all of these jobs. Like people getting their jobs back from pre-pandemic layoffs.
Yeah.
To me, is not jobs growth, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. We were behind the 8 ball. We're getting back to where we were. And then another thing is too, when it comes to a metric like that, it's one, for context, you got to bring in the job participation number, or like the people who are actively looking for jobs, because unemployment is based on people who are actively looking. If people aren't looking, they're not a part of that number. And it was really high under Trump when he had a 4.3, but now it's even higher. And you know what? Actually, we'll look it up real quick. Jobs participation.
Jobs participation trophies.
Let's see. This one might be it right here. The civilian labor force participation rate. So in January of 2020, it was 62%. Right. That's how many people were looking for jobs and stuff like that, of people who are either like men, women, of people who can work. 63% were like in the active labor force. Now it's 62%. It dipped all the way down to 60% in May of 2020, but that's 2%. So that's still a big, so there's just 62% of 300 million people.
That's 3.5 million people.
Yeah.
You're talking about 350 million Americans or so.
Yeah, so that's that many less Americans looking for a job.
And that doesn't mean they have jobs.
No. They're not active in the job workforce in general.
Oh, I got you. I thought you were talking about actively pursuing.
No. That's the civilian labor force participation rate.
Now, look, bringing American manufacturing back. That's one of those. That's something that Joe Biden did talk about in his State of the Union address this evening. And to me, you want to get back into populist talking points.
That is one, yeah.
That
should be
is
across the aisle.
huge. The superconductor plant in Ohio. I think we're supposed to be getting something here in Michigan. Corey and I
Michigan actually is leading. There's 37 states in the nation with a population over 2 million, and Michigan is leading all of them in job manufacturing growth, manufacturing job growth.
And that's huge for Biden to take that shot to really regain the trust of the Rust Belt, because that's where
we're not calling it the Rust Belt anymore, Dan.
I'm calling it that anyway.
What, he didn't give it a new name. He just said we're not calling it that anymore. So it's
Whatever.
It's the belt.
Whatever. It's the Rust Belt in my eyes. Fuck you. You don't get to say. You don't get to say. You're from Delaware, you turd. By the way, I'm really upset that we didn't put in the betting lines how often or whether or not he would mention Scranton, Pennsylvania.
That would have been a good one.
Because he did it one time. But no, the superconductor.
Come on, man.
In the Rust Belt. That's huge, because going into the 2022 midterms, you and I have already made the prediction. We're not the only ones. Most folks that are, in the center really giving what's actually happening, as opposed to CNN or Fox News or Newsmax or any of those other shit publications. The fact that Democrats are poised to lose quite a bit. Joe Biden actually going out and trying to regain the Rust Belt is huge, because that was the huge complaint with Obama. Obama abandoned the working class, particularly in the Great Lakes. It's why Trump won Michigan. It's why Trump won Pennsylvania.
That's why he won the whole Midwest, essentially, in 2016.
Yeah, that's right, because he won Wisconsin, he won Ohio. That's right.
And then he turned around and straight up lost in 2020.
And
I'm sure that played a huge factor in it.
Because Trump was a phony populist. Now, there's a good chance, and we already know this actually, that Joe Biden is a phony populist, because he's not a fucking populist. He just did a really good job in tonight's speech of making populist points. And I still firmly believe that Democrats are going to struggle significantly in the midterm elections.
Yeah, but this, you know what? And if you want to talk about whether a speech is a success or not, this didn't hurt their midterm runs. So
I would agree with that.
It probably a success. And he didn't come off as super weak or anything like that. And then I wrote this down as I was thinking about it, because he had a couple of his typical stutters and stuff like that, and everyone likes to give him shit for his stuttering. And then I was thinking, stuttering in all reality isn't that big of a deal when it comes to having a strength or a weakness, because one of the biggest badass presidents we had during one of the most dangerous wars, Roosevelt, couldn't walk.
Mm-hmm. Well, neither can Joe Biden, but that's
he can walk a hell of a lot better. He can walk a hell of a lot better than FDR. And so when we talk about shortcomings that people have, I don't think that the stuttering itself is, unless his brain's stuttering, then it's a whole different thing. But
Lauren Boebert and Marge Green were tweeting throughout the entire goddamn thing.
Lauren Boebert and AOC both looked good tonight.
I didn't realize what a crater face Lauren Boebert was, but I don't want to be a jerk.
Jesus Christ, that was one of the most I'm over here thinking, Jesus, I'm making misogynist statements.
I mean, they're pretty women. What do you want? They're very easy on the eyes.
They're easy on the eyes.
I know that you wanted to discuss his because you were kind of chomping at the bit during Biden's speech. You wanted to talk about the gun control stuff and the gun rights stuff. Yeah,
I just don't. The whole trying to sue a gun manufacturer, I don't understand the logic behind it. It's like
hold on, I'll help you out. If I bash your head in with a Craftsman hammer and kill you, do I get to sue Craftsman?
That's kind of what I'm getting at now. Like if I think
Or I'm
Remington,
sorry, does your family get to sue Craftsman? Is what I
if
meant.
Smith and Wesson makes a pistol, right, and it has a fault, to where like if you just plop it down a little bit too hard on the table and it goes off, and the safety was on, even if the safety was off and the trigger wasn't pulled, and you plop that gun down on the table and it goes off and it shoots, whether it kills somebody or not, and if there's not a recall, like really, really, really soon, then absolutely sue the fuck out of them. That's one of the most dangerous objects you can have in your house. A gun that can go off on its own, absolutely.
And I'm
But
not
when
a gun guy,
somebody,
Corey, but I know this much. I do know that they are so unbelievably such well-crafted tools
yeah,
that it is so unbelievably rare for an actual malfunction to happen with a firearm.
yeah, and even that is arguably operator error from not maintaining a gun properly and stuff.
Right.
But like to sue a gun manufacturer when the manufacturer, because of regulations, the one that's deciding that the person can buy the gun in the first place is the fucking government. The gun manufacturer is like 3 degrees separated from like the actual purchase of the gun. First off, second off, if the gun is doing what it's supposed to do and just the person that's doing it is ill intentioned, then it's 100% on the person. We don't sue car manufacturers when a drunk driver gets behind the car. We don't, you know what I mean? We don't sue even though when planes actually do based on the Boeing 7, the Max ones. But like when a pilot crashes a plane, we don't sue the
Airline.
plane company. You know what I mean? It's just like it just doesn't make sense to me. You can use so many different things to hurt people. And like if I shoot, like I don't know. It's yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that one bit.
We've
It
talked
just
about
doesn't.
this. It's a tool. A firearm is a tool.
Yeah, and it's a tool that's designed to kill. Sure. Sure. But it's what's in the person who holds it is who's the one where the intent is.
I did love the
Because right now we're praising Ukrainians and they're using this same exact tool to kill.
by the way, we helped send them.
Right.
Or our allies did at least.
And we're cheering that on. So like the idea that like when people try to use that same argument that it's a tool to kill.
I love that talking point of what did he say? Are the deer wearing Kevlar jackets? Or so, what the hell did he say?
Right, but what was he even talking about? He was talking about what, ARs?
Yeah,
They have the same caliber. They're the same caliber as like any other hunting rifle. That's what I don't understand. Like it's from a point from like it's like just a lack of knowledge regarding it. Like my wood grained lever action 30-30 that is for hunting is way more deadly pound for pound with like the grain of like how much ammo or how much gunpowder in it is and stuff versus the 22 assault rifle I have. Or not assault rifle, I'm sorry. That's just the fucking talking point. Yeah. No, the semi-automatic rifle that I have. And it's a 22. And I bet you that like anyone who knows chambers, you ask them, all right, I'm gonna shoot you with
it fires a lot of bullets really fast, Corey.
Yeah, but so does a semi-automatic pistol.
Yeah, like my handgun is pound for pound almost or just as deadly as your.
My pump action shotgun, I can shoot just as fast, like not just as fast, but faster than my lever action. But like, because like with a pump action shotgun, if you hold the trigger down and you just pull the pump, just boom, boom, boom.
Mm-hmm.
You can shoot that fast as hell too.
Buckshot, birdshot, buckshot, birdshot.
just slug. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's I think that there needs to be more, and I guess that goes to also what I was saying before, that like we need to institute more training on guns. Like if it's going to be a part of our culture, then we have to attack it responsibly as possible. And everyone needs to be taught the safety of gun control. We're really pushing sex ed in school because it's a part of culture.
How many right-wing pundits do you think are gonna pull the whole Obama scare tactic of, well, you heard Joe Biden is coming for your guns. How much of that
Yeah.
do you think you're going to see on Twitter tonight?
Oh, a ton.
And
Absolutely,
it's not going to happen. It's just a talking point. That's all it was. He was just trying to appease people, and that's what these.
And that one's actually pretty mild because it's far fetched. So you know what? Maybe that is just a political ploy.
100%.
We had a quick correction from a listener. They said it's a computer chip facility being built in Ohio, not a superconductor.
Sorry, I appreciate.
You fucking idiot!
Who sent that?
Our Democratic correspondent.
All right, that's fair. Yeah, we stand corrected. We stand corrected. We stand corrected. Either way.
But yeah, you know what? That's actually, like, thinking about it now more, that might be exactly what that is. It's nothing more than a political talking point because it's so far fetched that it is just enough to just get to appease the left to go, oh, listen, we're really trying. We're really trying to hold these people that have no bearing on the situation happening 1,000 miles away responsible.
Yeah. Was that the biggest gripe you had with this speech? Because to be honest with you, I didn't have too many gripes. And look, I've said it multiple times on this show. I'm not a fan of Joe Biden, but like I also understand, as most Americans should understand, that these State of the Union addresses, they're really just for show. We know this. But
yeah, it is just for show.
But because they're just for show, you have to make sure you say the right thing and not fuck it up, which Donald Trump did a terrible job of doing. So I will give Joe Biden credit for just being better than Trump, at least.
Yeah, he did a really good job at sticking to bipartisanship talking points, talking to the nation, not talking to his base. Overall, I give him an okay thing. Like, now we need to, where the rubber meets the road. Most people won't follow. Like over here, I have a page of notes now of all the different things he said and stuff like that, of stuff I'm trying to keep track of and stuff like that. And then we have something to measure. But most people don't do that. They just hear what he said, and you know what? And that'll go for Republicans and Democrats, or maybe not hardline Republicans, but any moderate or independent moderate that leans left or right, they'll like what he said. He didn't do terrible.
Did Joe Biden effectively give the okay to end the pandemic tonight?
He kind of did, didn't he? The pandemic's over, Dan.
He kind of did. Now here's why. Again,
midterms.
Democrats are going to get steamrolled. I'm sorry.
No, it's not all politics. The numbers are down.
The numbers are down. I understand that.
And we were actually talking about that off the air. We could probably maybe even talk about that Friday with the Osterholm thing. Yeah,
we can.
Like, the problem is, it's like our hospital system isn't any more prepared for the next pandemic wave than it was in 2019.
But you also realize if he hadn't addressed masks and keeping kids in the classroom and sending kids back to school and not having the mask, like, that is one of the biggest
pivots you've seen in the Democratic Party.
Just for going into the 2022 midterms. Like, if he didn't do that, and because we've already seen more and more blue states pulling back restrictions, that is a political move. Make no mistake about it.
Oh yeah, no, the McAuliffe-Youngkin campaign, the McAuliffe-Youngkin election,
that also had a lot
writing on the wall for a lot of them. Yeah, but it had to do with schools in general, and Mass had a big part of the schools. Like the school systems, that having them open and getting back to normal and all that kind of stuff.
Doesn't it just prove that it's not to say that COVID doesn't kill people? I will preface anything I'm about to say with that, but doesn't it just go to show you that almost the entire pandemic, as we knew, as so many people know, even on the far left and the far right, mostly the far right, to be honest, I'll give the far right credit on this, that it was just all political posturing from the beginning. It was political posturing even under Trump, right? It was, we're going to have vaccines. We're going to have the best vaccines. We're going to have the only vaccines. We're going to give everybody a vaccine. And then, you have people like Kamala Harris saying, I'm not taking a Trump vaccine. And then all of a sudden Biden gets elected. We start rolling them out. Now everybody wants a vaccine on the Democratic side. It's the same fucking vaccine.
Yeah,
The vaccine didn't change because
the political posturing. Yeah, it's that's kind of the premise of our show, trying to call out that brain rot. Like, it's just,
how
but
about
like,
hold-
even,
Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
No,
Go
I was
ahead.
going to change the topic. If you got something else to say,
Nope.
go for it.
It was an unformulated thought, and I didn't know exactly how I was going to finish it. So this is a good out.
I was going to say holding. I think this is another populist talking point that Biden had tonight, which was holding social media accountable with the targeted ads, the collecting of the data,
Yeah.
and the overall boosting of mental health and just the care that can be provided. I think this again is just another talking point. As we know, as I mentioned, the State of the Union addresses are all about posturing. It's mostly theater. And the first thing I thought of was like, you want to get after social media for targeted ads and data collecting, but I didn't hear a whole lot about censorship. That is, if he had addressed censorship on social media, I would have been thrilled. But I didn't hear any of that. I didn't.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing, because like just recently they blocked like RT and other like foreign, like Russian media news outlets. And like, is it propaganda? Sure, absolutely. But inside that propaganda, like if you actually sift through it, you can find translations of Russian speech from Putin and stuff with their spin on it. And that's very, very, very important when you're trying to navigate through like the temperature of where the heightened sense of this whole issue is. You want to hear where they're coming from their own mouths. Does that make sense? I don't want to water down MSNBC translation, or like, you know what I mean? Like, or a propagated translation of how America wants us to hear Putin's speech with the tone and things like that, because there might be bias. I want to hear how they're presenting it. And there's certain things that these different countries release articles. They're in this. I'm almost speaking what Sagar said the other day from Breaking Points verbatim, but he said that these certain publications from these other countries, they release things in English, and that's for us specifically to read and catch a tone of what they're saying. And I want to be able to see what they're saying from their words, not filtered through our media, because then we can have a better grasp on like what the actual tensions are, if that makes sense. And it, like I said before, it really pisses me off when we have gatekeepers in our country, because I take it very personal when our government is trying to block censorship, or companies are doing censorship, blocking things that people are saying that might be uncomfortable or might be misinformation or even disinformation. You're telling me personally that I'm too fucking stupid to be able to decipher this myself, and that you're protecting me and you're making that decision for me, when I know that I'm a pretty decent person when it comes to trying to decipher through the bullshit. I get, we get things wrong sometimes, but that's on me. In a free country, that's something that's supposed to be awarded to me.
And it almost goes to what I said on our show on Friday about what America's weaknesses truly are and what Putin sees. And that's it. When Putin looks at that and he goes, oh, wow, the American government thinks their own people are too fucking stupid to figure out exactly what's going on with what they read or what they hear. I look at that and, like, to me, that should be offensive to everyone, that you think your population is so dumb that they can't figure out what's bullshit and what's not. And some of us are dumb, right?
There's quite a bit of us that are stupid.
Some of us will.
But it's typically the noisy, not the numerous.
Would you not agree with this? That censorship actually perpetuates that, because censorship makes people more question things that maybe they shouldn't question, because, well, you already said this was bad, so what are you saying about this thing? And I think that even happens to smart people. It's gotten me a couple times. I'm sure it's gotten you.
It got us with the Russian invasion.
It got me. I'll give you a
look
better
how we were
example.
so like, oh, our the intelligence agencies, this is all propaganda. They're fucking wrong.
Because we didn't trust them already because they had lied to us before.
Yeah.
I'll give you another great example. Just in, recent history and what's sort of become pop culture. Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse got me.
Yeah.
I thought that dude was a white supremacist. I thought that dude was a piece of shit. I thought
Oh
he was
no,
going
from day one I saw that one.
I understand that, but I'm embarrassed to admit that I didn't. They got me, and I've you know me, I've 100% backtracked that. I'm with them now this is a completely different conversation for another day. Now you have folks that are obviously exploiting him for money, which is something we actually
I've gotten got.
Friday.
We all get got.
Yeah, it happens, and that makes us even more distrustful when I know that my media is lying to me.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not lying to me, I can figure it out on my own, and I don't think I'm a smart person. We're intellectual idiots on this show.
Yeah,
we're not smart.
Absolutely. We're just doing our best.
We just think for ourselves. What else did we have, Corey? Talk of funding the police?
Yeah, but like in the right conversation of talking about training and stuff like that. That was good. I have that written down. I have I like the idea of Medicare being able to negotiate drug prices.
That's a populist issue.
Yep. He talked about Europe being united, and I would say that Europe is more united than it has been in a long time. The Russian economy taking a dump. And I was thinking about this the other day too, like when we talked about what's happening, and so what we're seeing right now in Ukraine, all of the reasons that we had of like why Putin wouldn't invade Ukraine, and we were like, dude, it would destroy his economy. It would isolate him geopolitically. It would like, remember me talking about the logistics of like having this many soldiers trying to invade isn't enough, that he needs to have logistics and everything planned, and that he needs, you know what I mean? And he needs to have more soldiers there for support to ensure a supply line so they have fuel and stuff like that. I said all of these things because as a logical, rational thinker, I was like, this is why he isn't going to invade. But the crazy bastard did it. And now that he did it, all of the things that I said of why he wouldn't are happening. The ruble's down 30%. Their economy's in the tanker. They've had their stock market closed. You see tanks that are rolling into the city and they're just running out of gas because they don't have any logistic lines set up because they didn't have enough soldiers. You see them being completely isolated by the entire world. So I find a little bit of solace in that, I guess.
Yeah. So, I mean, all of the reasons that we had suggested are coming true. I still think it was an unbelievable geopolitical mistake.
But a blunder. He's a fucking moron. This was probably one of the worst things we've seen in a long, long time.
What we underestimated was his mental state. What we underestimated was how fucking crazy he was.
Mm-hmm. And he sure hid the crazy for a while.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought he was just more tactful.
Measured. Yeah.
I think a lot of people, doesn't make him any less evil. He just was a tactful authoritarian. Not so much anymore. What else do we have, Corey? We got to wrap this up here pretty soon. Is there anything else that you pulled from Biden?
Oh, yeah. This is one other thing that made me write something down. But they came back to the guns or whatever. And it was putting people who are on the terrorist watch list not being able to buy guns. And it's like,
that's really arbitrary, isn't it?
Yes. And this is why. So there was a few years ago, the Pulse nightclub shooting happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that person was on the terrorist watch list, which means he couldn't fly. When you're on the terrorist watch list in America, you can't fly on planes, but you could still buy guns. And that at that time, I remember hearing that and being like, this doesn't make any fucking sense whatsoever. Anyone on the terrorist watch list shouldn't be able to buy a gun. But that position has changed recently, and this is why. Recently, as of January 6th, and then since then, parents just speaking out at student council or at school board meetings. The word terrorist is being thrown around like the word racism now, or the word racist. and more people are just being called terrorists, and people are being thrown on little like observation lists way more frequently now than ever. So to now,
Hell, we could be on there soon. Look, we better watch our ass.
that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? So like just for people speaking their minds, now all of a sudden people are being put on terrorist watch lists. That this is a backdoor way to infringe on people's constitutional rights based on a word that is turning into another just word that isn't going to mean shit.
I will give you a great example, Corey. I know it applies to the West, not so much the United States. We talked about the trucker convoy.
Look
We
at
talked
Canada,
about it
yeah.
for weeks. I mean, those truckers were labeled terrorists. I mean, you can say,
Look at how many people in the January 6th thing are being labeled terrorists.
and you can say that they're breaking the law and they're unlawful protesters. I would disagree with that, but you could see the logic behind that at least.
Right.
But labeling them terrorists?
Yeah. Exactly.
That's and
exactly.
so
And then
yeah.
that's something that I was like, well, hold on. Because this word is just being tossed around so freely now that it's one more little backdoor thing to chip away at one of our constitutional rights. The Vote Act, he was talking about making it to where more people can vote and stuff like that. And then this is my thing that I think that like coming from it to where we can make it a bipartisan issue. If Republicans are so stuck on needing to have voter ID to vote, then we're sending everyone to schools and public schools anyways, right? We have all these students, information and stuff. Let's institute it to where kids, once they're like 17, 18 in college, or I mean in high school, they automatically get a register. They automatically get a voter ID.
Or like I think
you know what I mean? If we want to make it to where you have to have an ID to vote, then let's make it to where everyone just automatically is just getting them in the mail.
Yeah, sometime during your senior year in your civics class,
Right.
you fill out the form and it goes out.
Exactly.
But here's the thing. The voter ID thing is such a red herring. It's such a trope because you don't have to carry your voter ID with you. Have you ever had to show your voter ID for anything ever? I don't even know where mine is, Corey. I have no idea where mine is. I just show my driver's license, whatever. Almost every American has either a driver's license or a state ID.
Well, that's what I mean. I'm sorry. When I'm saying voter ID, that's what I meant, like the state ID, or even, you know what I mean? Just like, or like a driver's license, just in general. We should make it to where you just get a state ID, just boom.
But
there you go.
What I was getting at is it's a red herring because the people on the right will make you think that people are voting without ID, or that this will lead to people voting without ID. It's bullshit. It's 100% bullshit because 99% of Americans, I made that number up, but I have to believe it's close, have some form of ID that they can show when they get to the polling place. The issue isn't the IDs. The issue is the fact that when the GOP, and I will say that the GOP is more guilty of this because they want less people voting for reasons that we can get into at a later date. The issue isn't the IDs. The issue is polling places. The fact that, poor areas have one fucking polling place to service thousands of people. In the way they spread that out, the fact that there's no precinct in this area, but there is one in this area, and now this poor person has to find a way to drive an hour and a half to get to where they need to vote, as to where you and I, living in the Michigan or the Detroit suburbs, it's pretty fucking easy for us to get to our polling place. That's the issue. The IDs, that's a red herring. That's a trope. That doesn't matter. Everybody has the IDs and the qualifications to vote. It's the actual lack of precincts and actual lack of access to getting to be able to vote. Because let's face it, lots of poor folks don't have cars, and we've talked about this before on the show too. As sad as it is, a lot of those poor folks are people of color, and a lot of those people of color traditionally vote Democrat. So when you ask yourself, well, why don't Republicans?
Why are they trying to strip mail-in ballots? Yeah.
That's what it is. The ID thing is just this red herring. It's this thing that doesn't even matter. But Republicans bring it up all the time. I don't know why.
Yeah. And so that's what I was saying.
know why.
In a bipartisan way, like you make them put their money where their mouth is and go, fine, let's make it to where everybody gets an ID then. And then see where the goalpost moves after that.
All them illegals are voting.
Right. Ketanji Brown Jackson. I'm really happy about that one. I plan on talking about that on Friday.
We can talk about it some more. We can set that show up. Join us here live sometime around 7 or 7:30 on Friday. We'll be back.
Yeah, we will be back. The fun of the police thing, that's actually a good topic that I think that would be really expanded on. But it's 10:55 and I might have to go to bed, Dan.
Corey's got to go to bed. We appreciate you joining us here on the special edition of Libservative as we cover Joseph Robinette Biden Jr.'s inaugural State of the Union address. Corey and I think we're in agreement. We're not huge fans of the man, but I think we're both in agreement, and that I would call it a relative success.
Yeah, he did an okay job, I suppose. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. He stuck to a pretty bipartisan conversation.
Tell the people where they can find us, Corey Walsh.
Yeah, so you can listen to us on Libservative Pod. You can find Libservative at any podcast platform. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Libservative Pod. We're on Facebook at Libservative. You can listen to the transcripts of our monologues that we typically deliver on most of our shows at libservativepodcast@wordpress.com. Like, follow, and share. Subscribe. Give us a review if you listen. And if you like what you hear, make sure you tell a friend where you heard it. I'm sure you have one friend you talk to that you just bullshit about politics. And here at Libservative, we're just here to try to call balls and strikes.
And we will have at least the reaction of this posted in podcast form. So we invite you to share that sometime in the next couple of days. And please join us on Friday for our live show. Or if you can't make it, please download the podcast coming up Saturday or anytime after. And as Corey said, tell your friends, spread the word. And until next time, he's been Corey Walsh.
And he has been Dan Griffin.
This has been Libservative, and we are out of here.
Okay.